Hello and welcome to a Slayer PoB video. This is what I've come up with, and this is based off of another Slayer on PoE Ninja that I found that is kind of approaching this in a very similar light that I would have. I really like the idea of trying to cap out the block, and then he sprinkled in like the spell suppression stuff. Like, this is very expensive to kind of get these kind of results. I'm going to go over a lot of his gearing choices and then some of the alterations that I made because his PoB was intended for frostblades and I am changing it to be Reave. So obviously there's a lot of differences between a projectile that commonly took like lethality and a bunch of other stuff and just Reave. Also, he's using a cluster jewel and I completely omitted that from the build. I'm assuming that because of the defensive layers that he's incorporated into his build in conjunction with the just sheer value of a lot of what he's trying to do, I'm assuming that he is trying to farm T17s fast, efficiently, and I'm assuming that he's also just like blitzing them, to be completely honest, with the amount of damage that he's dealing. So I'm going to go over everything and kind of discuss stuff based off of how I see it. Real quick, he is increasing his rage. Actually, I forgot, he is taking that node. Because I tried chopping off this end of the tree entirely, but I ended up liking it so much because of the amount of damage that I decided to keep it. So if you wanted to get more life into the build, you could chop it off and then like come over here. You could take like the spell suppression over here and you can get more life back into the build this way, but you will lose a lot of damage, and then you would have to get rage on hit through like the gloves and everything else like that. So there are options. You can get a little bit more life going that way, but you can also make up a lot of the spell suppression, and then you can get the like avoid stun, stuff like that, which is also very comfortable. This is set to Guardian Pinnacles. I hope everything I'm showing is seen in the video because I changed the video settings. I'm actually going to change that to 43. Then also I need to make sure that I'm not chilled because I was trying to... This is assuming that you are chilled for the sake of the Pantheon. I was just curious of how bad chill actually affects the build. So that's what the chill was enabled for. This is a block focused build. It is abusing the charge stacking, and I will leave this in here in case people want to mess around with another setting. And the effective shock, I think that a build like this can very easily get 10 to 15% shock, no problem whatsoever. And I think if you could fit a yoke into the build, you'd obviously cap that at 50, 100%. It would be 50% shock. It is getting intimidate through the block here. I don't think that this block wheel is entirely necessary for the build. As you can see, it doesn't give too terribly much DPS. However, it is more of a comfiness because this gives you life gain on block. And then through his gearing, he is using a shield with life, recover 5% of life when you block. So yeah, just increases the sheer cost of this build dramatically to get stuff like that into the build. But because he's doing all of this stuff, it makes me assume that he's farming T17s, because this is just defensive layer after defensive layer after defensive layer, all built into one build. Depending on what you do with the helmet slot, if you just want to have like comfiness, I would say just use a Blizzard Crown. It'll give you more of a max hit because your life pool will be able to go much higher. But if you want to chase the dragon, so to speak, I would chase a Heat Shiver. That'll give you the most amount of damage with this kind of a setup. You do not need the power charge at all, but it is nice. I believe for the helmet, I want to say it's Crusader, but I feel like I'm wrong. Has like crit chance on it, so that's an option as well. Additionally, you don't need a Heat Shiver. You could run just like any regular old helmet and just get like some I don't know, Eldritch Implicits, like some Fizz taken as fire stuff going on. You have a lot of options for the helmet slot, I feel like. With the gloves, his are crafted specifically for his build. For these, you would not need the non-vol strike skills, target one additional nearby enemy. You can get spell suppression as a suffix as well, instead of like the accuracy or the dexterity if you don't convert everything to spell suppression. And then you can get spell suppress with the eater implicit as well, so that can make up for some of the spell suppression that you would be lacking in the build through other means. So I think coming out here, like if you were to do this kind of a strat and then take like spell chances lucky, even without like converting most of your decks into spell suppress, I think that would be more than enough for general mapping, unless you want to get into the T17 stuff. So that's why his gloves have decks and everything else like that. These gloves are obviously insane for this build, but they are even more insane for his build that he was playing with frostblades. And then amulet, attributes, and then he is anointing forces of nature. So yeah, that's just even more damage because it's pen. And then the opal ring, which is insane. The added cold damage per frenzy is really, really good for his build. I don't think he needs as much int as he has on this ring, and you wouldn't need the non-channeling skills of -7, because this build already is getting so much like reduced. Like he didn't take Thrill of Battle, but in my PoB, I'm taking Thrill of Battle just because of the extra unreserved mana. I like having even more unreserved mana for the tincture. So yeah, you can get rid of that. You can put in like elemental damage with attacks on the ring. So you can obviously make the ring completely different. You can use an amethyst. You don't need an opal. So just use what you can. Additionally, his taming is not perfect. So he could get this up to 48% increased elemental damage with hits. So there's even some improvements for him. And then this is utilizing Relicash and Patience. I have no idea how much this is on trade. I don't have it on SSF. And Arn's Anguish. This is a bog standard Slayer combo. I don't think I really need to explain how this functions, but basically this gives you maximum charges. You stack frenzy charges. Your maximum frenzy is then based off of your maximum endurance is based off of your maximum frenzy, and then you gain brutal charges instead of endurance charges, but the boots mean that you can always have endurance charges. It doesn't matter, but you still need to gain endurance charges, I believe, for the belt in order for all of this to function. So the belt, the boots, and the Slayer Ascendancy are a staple combo right now to get defense. So if I just disable the fact that I have endurance charges, lose so much damage, like it's crazy. So yeah, it's pretty good for the build. What else? I believe that's all I really need to talk about. Reservations all like pretty standard. Enduring Cry, so you can help like gain endurance charges on single target. Additionally, he has deflection here, so you can gain charges that way. The charges gained, I believe, are converted into brutal charges. Don't quote me on any of this interaction shit. I don't play with these kind of items because it's just not feasible for like 90% of people in SSF to have them. But I believe that's a big reason why he's taking deflection and everything else. He's taking these nodes because it is basically just more percent increased damage, and it's generic damage. And then the minor nodes are also pretty good. You get a little bit of AoE from this area of effect per endurance. So that's pretty good. And then this armor and evasion is getting converted through iron reflexes. So 23k armor, but no evasion. Then onto the Forbidden Flame Light Meeting, and yeah, this is capping his Chaos Res, and then these would be basically giving you this lucky block bullshit that is insanely overinflating the effective hit pool, but it's still just that good that I think that incorporating this into a build is definitely worth it. I have no idea how much these cost in trade, but you wouldn't need them to make the build function really well. I believe even just getting Determined Survivor, which would give you gain 50% chance to block from equipped shield instead of the shield's value. I believe that's pretty good. I don't know how that would interact with the amount of block that he is getting in his PoB, but I would assume that that would also just put you at like 75% block chance even without Testudo here. So I think that could be good. You'd have to PoB warrior it a little bit. Just go on trade, search the Forbidden Flesh, Forbidden Flames, copy them in, and then select this on your tree and figure out what it gives you. Additionally, Endless Hunger would be pretty good if you just want to be a map blaster. This would give you unaffected by bleeding, so you can just like turn off your brain. Also, you wouldn't be stunned, so that's kind of comfy. And then Impact, this gives you a lot of percent increase AoE, global accuracy, and then like even more damage. So like hypothetically, like let's say we took off the block stuff. Obviously we're still at 75 block chance and 69% spell block, so like more than enough tanky for like T16 purposes. But that in conjunction with like getting Endless Hunger or Impact or Conqueror or First to Strike Last to Fall would all be really good. Additionally, you can get 20% of Leech is instant while wielding a claw, and if you use a dagger, this would just give you more crit. So Weapon Master is potentially good as well. The only one that you really need to stay away from is Overwhelm, because it's just nerfs or crit. So yeah. Oh, and one other thing is, I don't know if I talked about this already, but the Mark Mastery, his was accuracy related, and I changed this to be cannot deal critical strikes. That's just way more defensive oriented because he does not have crit immune in his build. So yeah, this is pretty much how I would actually like honestly and truthfully approach it. He just did it in a much better manner than I would. You could play this as daggers, you can play this as claws. Honestly, if you got a good enough sword, you could probably play it as swords too. But I don't think you can use Nightblade with swords. Maybe I'm cooked. I don't think you can, but I'll test. Just yeah, claws or daggers. So you're kind of locked in with Nightblade on that. But you can also get like Woke Gems. You can get 2120s. Like there's all sorts of shit that you can do. Like he's got a 2120 Ice Bite, which does give you quite a bit more damage. You can get the Awakened Multi-Strike here, which is insane. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you can do to increase your damage. So hope that helped anybody trying to play a Slayer and get damage as well as defense into a build. Pretty much 90% of the damage is coming from the uniques here, and then like almost all the defenses is coming from like block in conjunction with like just abusing the endurance charge mechanics and stuff like that. So yeah, I hope this helps somebody. I don't think that this build is going to be like as insanely tanky as it's kind of being led on in PoB, but I think for a general like mapper, this would be insane, just absolutely insane. Like 90% of the stuff that's going to be coming at you is just going to end up getting blocked pretty much. Like absolutely insane. So yeah, that's it for this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.